do you think that Biden will issue preemptive pardons for people writ large?
First, we just need to say very clearly that revenge is not the same thing as accountability. Number two, is this even constitutional? So I know everyone's saying the word that it's unprecedented, but is it actually legal? Is it constitutional? Can he actually do this? Isn't this indicative that Biden thinks that these individuals have done something illegal? Like, don't you pursue a pardon to excuse and pardon and forgive and assuage illicit activity, illegal activity? So isn't he tactically like actually saying that these guys have done something illegal and he's trying to get ahead of it?
That's exactly it. If Biden thinks there's something worthy of pardon in these people, the first question I'd ask if I had access to Dr. Fauci and Liz Cheney, what'd you do?
All right, guys, good Thursday to you. We just never get disappointed, do we? Whenever you think you're going to get a small break, nope, tons of news coming your way and a lot of great stuff that we're going to break down. Now the Biden team is talking about additional pardons. All right, I'm going to want to know who the panel thinks might be on that list because I've got my thoughts. The poly market went off the chart yesterday on Dr. Fauci. We're going to talk a lot about that. But listen, I don't mean to start out on a negative note, but if you had a little too much to eat over the Thanksgiving holiday and you want to get ready for the Christmas holiday, you might want to have a candid conversation with my friends at myphdweightloss.com. I talked to Seb Gorka. He and his wife, Katie, found My PhD Weight Loss, and it changed their lives. And I've sort of said, okay, I want in. Because I've taken every fad diet over the years, keto, Atkins, intermittent, not eating, drinking only. I mean, you name it. I've done them all. My PhD Weight Loss, though, is a whole new lifestyle. You sit down weekly with a nutritionist, and it's accountability, but it's also tailored to you. I've got a call later this afternoon and have to explain what I did over Thanksgiving. But hopefully my consultant here, my nutritionist at My PhD Weight Loss, is going to continue to help me navigate the holidays. It's not a fad diet. It's a change of lifestyle. And that's what I love about it. They give you some initial starter food to help you bridge the gap so they really get to know who you are as a person and create a tailored plan. So if you're interested and don't want to wait till January 1st, get ahead of the curve right now because it does take a little while to get started, get that food to you and get to know you. So give them a call, 1-800-644-644-1900, 864-644-1900, or more importantly, go to myphdweightloss.com, myphdweightloss.com. All right, by the way, big shows coming your way. Tomorrow, Megyn Kelly. Next week, Tom Homan. A ton to talk to him on the border. Bill O'Reilly's going to be here, and the aforementioned Seb Gorka. He will be here as well. So a lot coming your way. And obviously, there's a lot going on with the nominations. President Trump making a slew of them yesterday. IRS, Billy Long, the auctioneer, he's going to be great. Kelly Loeffler from Georgia, new SBA administrator. So a lot is happening, and we will break that all down for you, give you the latest. But there's a lot going down because apparently, as I mentioned a minute ago, Biden is looking to pardon a whole host of folks, and I think that's probably coming down the pike. I don't think Hunter is the last guy named Biden to get a pardon. I think they're talking about blanket pardons for his staff. I mean, it's pretty sweeping what they're talking about. And so anyway, we will get into all of that with the panel. It's coming your way. Rob Bluey from the Daily Signal is here. Jessica Anderson, the president of the Sentinel Action Fund. Those are the folks that, frankly, were out there, boots on the ground, knocking on doors, talking to us. Why? Part of the reason we got that right when we called it 312 is because we had people like Jessica on the show telling us what was actually happening based on data. This is where when the media says they missed it, they just didn't talk to the right people who actually were on the ground doing stuff. And then our buddy Chris DeGaulle, the heartbeat of Pennsylvania. I mean, that guy, he knows them all. We're going to bring them all in just a second. Before I do that, though, one guy that's not up for a nomination, but doing great stuff, and I think would fly through the Senate, is my buddy Leo Grillo at Delta Rescue. They do amazing stuff. If you're an animal lover, a rescuer of pets, dogs, cats, animals, whatever, you got to check out deltarescue.org. Look at what they're doing, because it's a no-kill sanctuary for life. And I've told this story before, but when I first met Leo, and I said something about a shelter because I had rescued dogs, he was like, Sean, shelters are like, where dogs go and hopefully get placed in a new home, or cats or whatever. Delta Rescue is a no-kill sanctuary. We find abandoned, neglected, abused animals, malnutrition. We give them the care that they need, and they live here for life. We're not looking to place them. We want to create a sanctuary, and what a sanctuary he has created. It's amazing. And I just can't say enough great things about Leo Grillo and the work that he's doing. So if you're an animal lover, go to deltarescue.org, check out the work they're doing. Please consider a contribution because he's not looking for a government handout. But most importantly, Leo really is concerned about making sure that Delta Rescue is around for decades and generations to come. So click on the estate planning kit, have a conversation with your tax attorney or accountant, because there's probably some tax benefits to you if you make Delta Rescue part of your estate. Maybe you've got stocks or a 401k, but just hit that Delta Rescue site, go to the estate planning kit and see what you could do. Please think about it, pray on it. Just as a favor to me, check it out because I love this organization and I think you will too. All right, I want to bring in the panel. Let's welcome them back. Rob Bluey, Jessica Anderson, Chris Stigall. Guys, good to see you all.
Howdy, Sean.
Good to see you, Sean.
Hi. All right, I want to start with a positive note. This is something that I when it caught my eye, I went, wow. In Miami-Dade, the county down there in South Florida, they're going to honor President Trump by adding his name to an avenue in Hialeah, which is a tribute to how well he did. And it's a very Hispanic community. But here's the kicker, because obviously everyone knows how well he did in Florida. The county commission voted 9-1 to approve Hialeah's request because the town had to go to a county, I guess. But the Democrat commissioners hold 7 of the officially nonpartisan seats. Only 1 objected. Jessica, I said to myself, that's smart politics. Good on them, because the Democrats could have objected, but they thought, okay, here's a guy who won. It just shows you that, like, I think a lot of these Democrats are seeing the light and saying it doesn't make sense to be the resistance anymore. Maybe politically it makes sense to actually find areas where we can agree with the guy.
Yeah, they're taking a page out of John Fetterman's notebook, right? And I know Chris has got some opinions on that one too. But I actually love what they're doing in South Florida. I think the changing demographics of the Hispanic community fully coming over to the Trump agenda and supporting Republicans up and down the ticket is indicative that we've been right all along, that the issues of family, safety and security, a good job, a strong economy, securing the border, all of this impacts everyone, regardless of their, of their race or their religion or their socioeconomic background. And so the Hispanic community, I think, embracing Trump and even Democrats being okay and not fighting what the voters wanted is a great indicator of bipartisan support that could come down the road. And I'll just say this, you probably don't even know this about me, but I was actually born there. I was born at Jackson Hospital, which is in Miami-Dade. My dad worked in Hialeah. I know this area well. We actually didn't leave that part of Florida until Hurricane Andrew. And then our family moved north when we lost a lot of our home, if you'll remember that, in the 90s. And I'll just tell you, every time I go back, it is such a vibrant community that so much of the infrastructure that was there when I was born and growing up there 30 plus years ago, the coffee shops, the con leche, the great food, the Cuban food, the black beans and rice. I mean, it's just awesome to see a community like that really embrace Trump and everything that his message is for. So I love that story. I'm glad you started with this.
You know what? And we learned something new today about Jessica Anderson. All right, Chris Stigall, where were you born? But I think Jessica brought up Fetterman. I think that's true. Like, she's right. There's this trend to say it's stupid to be the resistance.
I was born in the backwoods of the bayou, and no, I wasn't. But anyway, I don't have nearly the exciting story she does. But that would no. John Fetterman is an interesting guy. Now the senior senator from Pennsylvania, which is kind of a stunning development now that I think about it. But he has shown a willingness time and again to warn his party, even before the election. You guys don't get it. You don't understand why Trump, you still don't seem to understand why he's connecting. And he kept warning them, and he sat rather sullen when Kamala Harris chose Walz, I've already forgotten his name, as her pick, and they came to Philadelphia to announce it. He sat in the seats, crossed-armed. It was as though he was attending a funeral then. Fetterman had been projecting for weeks and weeks and weeks that he thought this was going poorly. So it's clearly turning into the working class party. Fetterman is a guy that leans hard into that. And I think you're going to hear a lot from Democrats like him. And I'm interested to see some members of the House that are already saying they're inclined to join forces with the DOJ committee. Bernie Sanders has complimented Elon Musk. So you may find some Democrats who actually are getting stuff done with Trump and the Republicans this next session. Maybe. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I will be interested to see how this plays out, because I think they know Trump's not up for re-election. It may make sense to um, align themselves with some of these policies. To your point about Bernie Sanders and a couple of these other things, there's one Democrat that joined the Doge caucus in the House. I think it's smart politic for him. Rob, I do want to pivot, though, to the media, since technically Daily Signal is part of the media, but it is independent, very clearly. The MSNBC did an interview with James Carville, and let me see if I can. And I'm just going to put you on the spot here. I want to see if you can pick out the problem with James Carville's response to a question that was on MSNBC. Let's play the clip, please.
J.D. Vance, Don Jr., Kash Patel was Tucker's business partner. I'm just telling you what's out there.
Did you see the mistake there, Rob Louie?
Was it the visual, Sean?
Kash Patel never worked for the Daily Caller, which shouldn't be confused with the Daily Signal. That was Neil Patel.
Yes.
But as the Daily Caller pointed out, I guess all Indians look the same to James Carville.
Yikes.
Well, and thank you for bringing up the Daily Caller, our good friends over there. They're obviously celebrating a big night tonight with their annual dinner in Washington, D.C. So kudos to them for the great work that they do. But look, this is exactly why I think MSNBC is seeing its viewership tank. CNN is seeing its viewership tank. The November ratings came out, and Fox, I think, is commanding now 72% of the cable news market share in primetime. I mean, that is just unbelievable what they've been able to build there. And I think that it's people like James Carville who are repeating not only false information, but the same old tired talking points that the American people are tired of. And that's why, going back to your previous question, I think you are going to see more Democrats come over, and they're not going to support Donald Trump on everything. But I think it's why the response is so different this time around than it was in 2016 and 2017, when there was a clear resistance and massive numbers of people organizing and rallying in cities across the country. Now, not only are some of those people have flipped and supporting Trump and the policies, but they are willing to hear him out, because I think they see how badly things are going, not only overseas, but here in our own country. And they recognize that we do need some radical changes.
You know, Jessica, it wasn't bad enough that MSNBC let Carville get away with that, because, of course, that's false. And anybody who's in media pretty much knows the difference between Kash Patel and Neil Patel, right? So they can't claim that they didn't. But then Politico this morning in their daily newsletter said, quote, James Carville may have mixed up Kash Patel and Neil Patel. There's no may, right? That's one. I mean, they're two different people. And so it was like, instead of they could have ignored it, but Politico basically doubled down on stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is indicative of where a lot of journalism on the left is today. It's just very lazy. They don't go the extra mile to actually understand what's going on, or they fabricate lies, which I think is actually what's happening here. He knew exactly what he was doing. He made the connection because he wanted the bit to connect, Kash Patel as a crazy right winger connected to Tucker. Well, we all know Kash. He can do that on his own. He doesn't need to be connected to Tucker. He has amazing street cred on the right. It can stand on his own 2 feet. And so I think Politico really messed up by doubling down. They didn't need to. This could have just gone away. But now they make it a thing. And it's something that we're going to continue to talk about for the days. And it just shows that distrust that we all have for the mainstream liberal media today.
And
Chris,
Sean, let me just say this. I know you're going to talk to Megyn. This is why I thought it was so important for Hegseth to go do his show. Why all of Trump's picks really need to be out there aggressively pushing back against the narrative that so many of these lazy legacy media organizations are pushing, because they are outright lies or falsehoods. And if you're not out there telling your side of the story, they're going to fill that vacuum and do damage to your reputation, which is obviously going to lead to consequences on Capitol Hill and other places in Washington.
Rob's exactly right. Jim, I know you talked about this last week, Sean, when Jim VandeHei started freaking out at the National Press Club. You are not the media. No.
By the way, he said, you're not reporters. Elon said, we are now the media. And then VandeHei, sleight of hand, said, you're not reporters, which no one ever claimed to be. Right?
No.
Now, I just want to make sure we're clear on this, because your point is exactly right. But just to be clear, VandeHei freaked out about, you're not a reporter, which is not what Elon said.
Yeah, well, I mean, Elon continues to say, "You're the media now." He says that on X to people all the time. "You're the media now," and Vanda High very specifically took issue with that and said,
Who,
"Bull
by the way, is
excrement!
the head
You
of
are not the
Axios,
media now."
the head
Yeah.
of Axios, the founder of Axios. Just so everyone,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the point is, and Carville said this week as well, I know you heard him say that Trump picks people just to get under the skin of Rachel Maddow. And it's like they are so full of themselves. They genuinely think that the only reason Trump does anything is just to make Mika Brzezinski mad or something. It's just they love themselves to a degree I can't fathom. And I know egos. I've been in media a long time, and these people have epic egos, man, to think that this is about them still.
All right. Speaking about them and egos, I've been excited about all of Trump's picks for the most part. I mean, there's some that but I like where he's going overall and the ethos. But if there's one thing that I'm going to be critical of right now, and this ties into what we're talking about, they announced yesterday that Trump is going to sit for an interview tomorrow, Friday, for Meet the Press on Sunday. I'm sorry. I just don't. I'm like, why are we rewarding bad behavior? And we talked about this on the morning meeting this morning. I mean, Rob, I'm sorry. There's these theories. Oh, he wants to mix it up with Christian Welker. I'm like, I'm sorry. Where you did really well was Joe Rogan. And it's not that he can't handle it. I know he can handle anybody, any outlet. But you're rewarding bad behavior and you're giving Meet the Press credibility that they don't deserve. Every roundtable, every week, including after the election, is a bunch of Trump haters. And now Trump's going to reward them by saying they can advertise and sell ads, to make money off of the fact that they're going to get a huge ratings boost because Donald Trump is sitting down with their show. I'm sorry. That to me is almost as bad as, the concerns that some of these people had about like a...
Do you think this is why Joe and Mika went to Mar-a-Lago? Just a theory.
To get Kristen Welker an interview?
I mean, it seems NBC's been trying to do outreach, right?
Right, but you've got to remember, they're spinning off MSNBC. If Joe and Mika want something, they would want, I mean, first of all, Joe and those guys are all about themselves.
Yeah,
they don't care about anyone else.
On their show.
Yeah,
right. But
Sean,
I mean, maybe this is a pet peeve, Chris, but I feel like I don't understand why, especially this early, his first Sunday show is with Meet the Press.
Is it possible? I don't know that Trump thinks this way. You'd know better than me. Is it possible that he thinks this is Beltway media and he's talking to Beltway folks about his potential picks? This is a way to reach Beltway folks who are obsessed with that Beltway media stuff. Is that possible? Maybe he's not thinking that way, but is that a possibility?
Chris, I'd say that could potentially be. I'm with Sean on this. I don't like it. I certainly understand that it's part of the circuit that he probably feels he needs to do. But as Sean and I've talked about in the past, it's the same reason why I don't think Republicans should agree to do any presidential debates with these legacy outlets that, first of all, are seeing their ratings go down and they're just losing relevance. And why would you sit there and subject yourself to what David Muir and Lindsey Davis did to Trump during the debate or what Caitlin Collins did on CNN? It's just not worth it, particularly because he could go on any other podcast, he could do any other show, he could do Sean's show, any show, and those other outlets would cover it. They would run clips from it. They would cover the news that Trump makes on those shows. So I don't see why he's giving them the time, other than the fact that maybe, Chris, you're onto something. He feels he needs to talk directly to U.S. senators or others who he's trying to convince to get these nominees approved.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's because they're a legacy media outlet and there's something about the brand, the Meet the Press brand. He loves some, Time Magazine, 60 Minutes. But I was so proud of him when he stood up to 60 Minutes and said, I'm not going on your show. You lied about me. You lied about Hunter Biden's laptop. And again, maybe you do it, but don't do it first. Don't reward them right off the bat. To your point, Rob, I'm 100% with you. If he went on, if he spoke into a seashell, people would cover it.
Yeah. Your point is well taken. He won this election as the podcast president, which, I've been calling him now for a couple of weeks. He's the podcast president. We've never seen someone do an end around so totally over establishment media and win so handily. And that's, I think, what did it is non-traditional media. But you're right. I think he's of an era. He just is of an era that Meet the Press meant something. Right? I mean, the name's Oprah. I'm not sure Oprah means as much as we think she means, but a lot of us are of a certain age that remember when Oprah spoke, it mattered. Maybe that's just vintage Trump.
All right. I want to get to, there's this story about Biden preemptively pardoning folks. I want to get to that. Before I do that, I just want to tell you guys, like I've told this many times before, I have trouble falling asleep, staying asleep. I've tried everything in the world, magnesium, melatonin, and there's all these other natural ingredients, reishi, that help people fall asleep. Well, the folks at Beam's Dream Powder have actually put it all together in an amazing, look at, this is the bag that's empty. I always tell people I'm using it. I want to show you, like, this is legit. It's an empty bag. I love taking a scoop of this every night before I go to bed, put it in water, microwave it for 30 seconds. And man, 30 minutes later, my head hits the pillow. I'm out. It is amazing to fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling completely refreshed. If you have trouble, and it's a great gift if you know somebody, like I got a couple family members that have the same issue. So if you know somebody that's got a problem falling asleep, staying asleep, always saying I can't get a good night's sleep, go to shopbeam.com/Spicer and use code word Spicer to get 40% off your entire order. So go to shopbeam.com/Spicer, use code word Spicer, 40% off. And I'm telling you, the flavors are amazing. I would drink this all day long, any of the flavors, except it puts me to sleep, which is what it's supposed to do. So just be careful. Don't just drink it because you think it tastes better than coffee or tea or something. Only use it when you're ready to go to bed. But I'm telling you, it will be the greatest gift that you give anyone this Christmas. All right, Jessica Anderson. As I mentioned, there's this story that came out that says Biden White House is discussing preemptive pardons for those in Trump's crosshairs, right? It goes on to say this. The nomination of Kash Patel, who has vowed to pursue Trump's critics as FBI director, has heightened concerns within the president's inner circle. Joe Biden and senior aides are conducting a vigorous internal debate over whether to issue preemptive pardons to a range of current, former public officials who could be targeted. This would be unbelievably unprecedented, right? And then it goes on to say, those who could face exposure include such members of Congress, January 6th committee as Senator-elect Adam Schiff, former GOP rep Liz Cheney. Trump has also previously said Cheney should go to jail along with the other rest of the unselect committee. Also mentioned by Biden aides for pardon is Anthony Fauci, the head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. All right, so let me just start with the first question. Do you think that Biden will issue preemptive pardons for people writ large?
I think he is absolutely considering it today. I tend to view when stuff like this gets leaked as like trial balloons of, what's the media going to say? Is Trump going to be baited and reply? And so I think that's what's happening today. People are reacting to the news and he will assess that when he makes this decision. But I think there's a couple of things going on here, Sean. And I think first we just need to say very clearly that revenge is not the same thing as accountability. Accountability and revenge,
love it.
Two different things. So we like, if I'm going to make a bumper sticker for next year, that's what it's going to say. So like, number one, put that over there. Number two, is this even constitutional? So I know everyone's saying the word that it's unprecedented, but is it actually legal? Is it constitutional? Can he actually do this? Does unprecedented mean he's just going to make a new law or just no one's ever done it? So I think that's kind of interesting and people much smarter than me are going to have to figure that out. But the thing that I was thinking about the most when you just asked this question, Sean, isn't this indicative that Biden thinks that these individuals have done something illegal? Like, don't you pursue a pardon to excuse and pardon and forgive and assuage illicit activity, illegal activity? So isn't he tactically like actually saying that these guys have done something illegal and he's trying to get ahead of it? So I think that's interesting and we should consider that. And we should also consider the fact that this is indicative of his DOJ that has been completely weaponized to go after political opponents. They've been doing this for 4 years, and it's clear that they think that because they've done it, that it's okay and someone else is going to do it, when that is not. Trump has been very, very clear that accountability is not the same thing as revenge. Revenge is not the same thing as accountability. They're two different things. And I, for one, look forward to Fauci being hauled before Congress and being held accountability for the lies that he told the American people.
I love Jessica's point on this because that's exactly it. If Biden thinks there's something worthy of pardon in these people, the first question I'd ask if I had access to Dr. Fauci and Liz Cheney, what'd you do?
Yeah.
I would love to hear Liz answer what he thinks she did that's worthy of a pardon. Wouldn't you love to hear her answer that?
I know what she did. I mean, in her case, she went to Cassidy Hutchinson when Cassidy Hutchinson, remember, was that Donald Trump aide that testified in front of the January 6th committee. Cassidy Hutchinson had counsel. She was represented by Stefan Passantino, an amazing lawyer, a great friend of mine. And Liz Cheney, via Alyssa Farah, went around Stefan Passantino, went directly, told her and said, hey, we should talk. And Liz Cheney is an attorney. She knew this was a violation of legal ethics or whatever they have. I'm not a lawyer. But so I know. And that's the key question, Chris, is that, well, why would you need to pardon me? Oh, yeah, because I did the following. And that's
Fauci, there's nobody takes the cake in arrogance and denial like Dr. Fauci, who will say repeated. I'm sure you could put together a montage 10 minutes long of Dr. Fauci arrogantly, smugly laughing and dismissing anyone who suggests he's anything but science. So I'd love to hear him explain why he thinks Joe Biden thinks he deserves a pardon.
Other thing here, Chris, what do we think, and Sean and Rob, what do we think if Biden does move forward with the pardons? Do these guys accept them? Because isn't it a two-way street? Don't they have to accept the pardon?
It's an admission of guilt, to your point, Jessica.
Right.
I like they're admitting they deserve one.
Can you? I don't know. She's asking a great question. Can you reject it?
I
don't want a pardon.
Has anyone ever rejected a pardon? I'm not sure. But, one of the other names I saw mentioned in that article was Donald Trump, that one of the ways that Biden might try to regain some of his political legacy is to throw Trump in the mix there. And so that way, maybe the distraction is not so much on all these other Democrats or former Republicans who've turned Democrats, but, the attention's on Trump. And I don't see that happening, by the way. I think that there's no love between the two men, despite what, you might see on the cameras. And so ultimately, the Democrats are in a state of panic over this. I think that they realize that what Biden has done with Hunter has completely tarnished their reputation when it comes to this whole argument about democracy and the rule of law. They have nothing to stand on anymore. And so if Biden decides to go down this path, I mean, I would suspect that even more Democrats are going to come out and just say that he's completely lost his mind, and they're not going to give to his presidential library. They want nothing to do with him.
And the pretzel twisting that he's been doing since the Hunter pardon in trying to both say the Justice Department is above board except where his son is involved. And so Trump has a point that it's weaponized, but only kind of. And they're clearly terrified of Kash Patel. I mean, if anything, this tells us the Kash Patel pick is absolutely the perfect pick because everyone's running for the tall grass in advance. But is it weaponized or isn't it? I mean, he's going to have to decide one way or the other.
Okay, so let me do this. I want to do a literally, because you're bringing up so many amazing questions. I just want to go like a quick round robin, yes or no, on a bunch of things to get some clarity. Because I based on what Jessica said, I'm going to make this my poll question in my weekly newsletter. People can go to SeanSpicer.com. But I think tomorrow, this is what I want to ask about Biden pardoning. All right, so let's just start with this. Will Biden offer preemptive pardons with people named Biden before he leaves office? Yes or no? Rob?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Chris?
100%. His brother first.
Yeah, his brother's first on that list. Okay.
Yep.
Second question. Will he issue a pardon to Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, etc.? Meaning, and I'm not saying specifically, but people like on the January 6th committee. Rob?
No, I don't think he goes through with it.
Jessica?
I think he goes through with it. I think he tries, yes.
Chris?
Yeah, tough. I'm going to lean yes. Yes.
Okay. Next question. Does he issue one for Fauci? Rob?
No.
I
Jessica?
agree. No. I agree. No, I don't think he does Fauci. I think he sees a difference between I think he sees a difference.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Chris DeGaulle?
Yeah, I mean, Lord Fauci and COVID, that's their hill to die on. I don't think they want to suggest
I'm blown away with this, guys. I actually thought you'd all say, yeah, I think that Fauci's the layup. Right after Brother Jim, he gets one. Because here's the thing that people miss sometimes is that if you're pardoned, they can't touch you. Although I will tell you, this was a great point that Alan Dershowitz brought up on the show the other day. When you do that, you take away the immunity. You can't plead the fifth anymore. So if Congress calls in Fauci, he can't say, I can't incriminate myself on gain of function research or whatever. But this gets me to the other question, though, that Jessica got me thinking of as she said this. So, Jessica, I'll start with you. Did what Fauci do, was it negligence or criminal?
I think it depends on what question we're asking that.
Okay,
If
but I
it's
mean, I guess what I'm getting at is you
right,
issue a pardon, right, to absolve someone of potential crimes, and does
it,
Fauci say, "I've never committed a crime. I've just, I was wrong a couple times."
yeah. I think if it's the question of was he aware of the origin of COVID and when, and was he aware of the damage to the American people, I think that is criminal. Now, at the
Okay.
beginning, was there negligence in terms of the first 3 months of that year being an insane amount of data coming in and no one really knowing what was up or down? I think that is an element that there could have just been mass negligence of how he was managing the department. But when it became a question of accountability for how did COVID start, when did you know, were you aware of the implications at the state level? Were you aware of shutting down the country, of the learning loss for children, of forcing vaccine mandates and how that's unconstitutional? All of those things, I think those are criminal.
And how about getting to the truth on gain of function research and everything that happened years before, COVID came onto the scene? Those are questions that I'm hoping that we'll finally get some answers to with either the new directors over there at NIH and maybe Congress probing deeper into this. I mean, there have been some real advocates on the Hill, Ron Johnson, Rand Paul, and others who have been asking these questions of Fauci for years and have been stonewalled.
And
Yeah,
some of that, I
Maha.
think, Rob, is conspiracy, right? So I think that's
Yeah.
probably the third term in the middle of this: negligence, criminal, and then conspiracy to commit these crimes.
Yeah, because remember, with gain of function specifically, I always found it fascinating that the one thing Barack Obama came into the White House and found that displeased him was gain of function research.
Yeah.
That's documented. You can find the reporting on it. And he went to Fauci and said, knock that off.
Yeah.
Obama ordered gain of function research to cease. And as soon as Obama was out of the White House, Fauci fired it back up again. Is that illegal? No, but I think there's more than malfeasance.
Well, I mean, that's why the question, I think, is that Fauci can claim negligence. He can claim that he's a moron. He can say, I made a mistake, or I believe in this, and that's not true. There's a big difference between that and criminal, which is why you'd want the pardon. But the other point that I think, where if I were the Biden White House, how I would sell this is, hey, guys, lawyers cost a lot of money getting hauled around and brought up on charges. And so therefore, if we can give you a blanket pardon, we're saving you a ton of time and money. So you're not necessarily guilty. But this gets me to, so I mean, that would be my sell, is to say, hey, guys, we're going to do this. Take it so that you wave this around like a free pass. Like, hey, I can't be prosecuted, so I don't have to hire a lawyer at a couple $1,000s an hour.
How big a deal is RFK Jr. in that factor? I would wonder with Fauci in particular. Is RFK Jr. going to be a big pain in Fauci's side, perhaps? Maybe that's what they're thinking.
But I think that this is where the receiving end of this actually is a differing factor between some of those other names, because you're so right about Fauci's ethos. Like, he thinks he is above anything. Like, he literally thinks he's the savior of America. Remember when he was on some TV show in the middle of COVID and he wanted Brad Pitt to play him in the movie? Like, it's nauseating, but I always come back to that example because he has such an inflated view of himself. So if those conversations are happening, and I believe that they are, I think Fauci is saying, what are you going to pardon me for? What have I done wrong? I've done nothing
He was
wrong.
on throw pillows. I remember. You remember when the governors would do hits on TV and Gretchen Whitmer had bobbleheads and he was on throw pillows, and it was worship. Weird.
It's weird stuff. These people are weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Tim Welch. These guys are weird. Okay. So, but here, I love playing this stuff out because here's my theory on this. And I think it was you, Chris DeGaulle, that brought this up. So you're Biden and you go, guys, here's why I think you should take a pardon. I'm going to pardon you all. And they go, well, we don't want one. He goes, hey, listen, I'm going to pardon Trump. And all the media is going to focus on that. And and then Trump will maybe I would expect Trump to say, I don't want a pardon. I've done nothing wrong. Right. But my point is, you throw, it's the shiny nickel, which is he basically says, I'm going to pardon all these people. And instead of the media focusing on that, I'll add Trump to the list. And then everybody will talk about Trump being pardoned. Trump would respond because he has to. And suddenly all the talk would be about Trump, not these other folks. Now, I don't know that Biden's capable of coming up with what I just said, but I think his team is. And they throw out Trump. as we're going to pardon him too. And then everyone on cable news and the media and Politico and Washington Post says Biden issues pardon for Trump, and Fauci. Rob Bluey, what do you think strategically?
This is, I think back to Bill Clinton and some of the other notable examples of people who have been pardoned on the last day of office. And they're usually a long list. I think Karine Jean-Pierre even said that there will be more pardons, just expect them later in his term. Well, the clock's ticking, let's face it. So there will probably be a large number. I think he's given a historically low number of pardons so far during his term of president. So yes, more are to come. And I think there is, Sean, that possibility that he does so many and such a rapid pace here at the end that we can't focus on all of them and really can't get the American people to pay attention to some of the people who he is giving pardons to. Obviously, bigger names like Trump and Cheney and Fauci would escalate beyond that. But I'm also worried about some of those criminals who really do probably belong in prison and shouldn't be let out or on early release. I think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is pushing for a pardon of somebody who killed 2 FBI agents. So, I mean, these are the types of people that the Democrats want out on the streets.
Let's face it, they already traded Brittany Griner for the Merchant of Death. There's really not much lower than the guy who calls himself the Merchant of Death.
I think Rob is exactly right, and onto something, and the criminal's named Biden. The thing that they are desperate to do is make Hunter a sympathetic drug addict, and what father wouldn't be sympathetic to his son? It's never been about that. You guys all know that. We're not interested in the Bidens because of their peccadillos as people. They are money launderers from foreign governments, and all of them are guilty of it. And it's made all the Democrats so embarrassed. So I can imagine Jim and all the family gets pardoned. And then, yes, to your point, Sean and Rob, you throw out a Fauci and a Cheney and a Trump so you don't have to talk about the family anymore. That family pardon is a problem for them. They'd like to not have to talk about.
I will tell you. Go ahead, Jess.
I just have a radical counterpoint for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
What if Biden pardons Trump as the ultimate middle finger to the Democratic establishment that pushed him out? There is nothing more that the Democratic establishment would hate and see that than a Biden-Trump pardon. And he laced it up with unity and moving on and the American people as just the ultimate, Jill Biden wearing red on election day, like just the ultimate, just middle finger to the Democratic establishment. I am here for that pardon.
All right, watch this. I'm going to take what Jessica said and put a cherry on top. Boom. Here's what if Biden does it at 11 o'clock on Inauguration Day? He pardons Trump. No, I'm being serious because it's a twofer. It's a twofer. He gives an a middle finger to the Democratic Party. And then, but at the same time, Trump now has to spend his first day deal. I mean, like this, if Biden actually knew I just don't know that they can strategically think like that. But to me, that would be the ultimate, like at 11 a.m., he says, I'm issuing a bunch of pardons, including President Trump. It throws the Democratic Party into a tizzy. Trump goes nuts. I actually think that it's going to be that there's something there that wouldn't surprise you because he's not going to just pardon these other people and take the hit. He saw what happened with Hunter, and they're going to look for some kind of cover.
I'm struck by Chuck Todd this week talking to Chris Cillizza and talking about how selfish the Bidens were to ever run in the first place. It's clear, to Jessica's point, the Democrats have just savaged him. I mean, they're talking about him like he never belonged there to begin with. So him wanting some vengeance probably wouldn't be a surprise now that you bring it up.
Yes, especially.
By the way, I do want to get...
for Jill.
Yeah. I want to get into winners and losers, but before I forget the story, because I don't want it to get too old, just to show you how appreciative Hunter Biden is as an individual and how great he is. Even sober, right? He's been, according to Biden, I think it's 5 years now, he's been sober. He owes $300,000 to a California landlord and used the Secret Service to keep the landlord off the property. This is a quote from one of the guys. Hunter was our tenant in Venice, California, didn't pay rent for over a year, tried to pay rent with art made from his own feces. Absolute derogatory S-word bag, McGuire wrote, adding in a follow-up post that the rent was $25,000 a month, which is located on the canals in Venice, California. He added, this is the landlord, that Hunter changed the locks and used Secret Service to enforce it so that they didn't have access to the property. That's the guy who's now turned a page and is such a great person that we should be forgiving. And I mean, to Chris's point, and I mean, of course, the media is not going to tell you that because it goes against the narrative that he's just a sympathetic dad that doesn't recognize his own grandchildren. Well, that's neither here nor there. I always try to end Thursdays talking about the winners and the losers. We've got a lot up for contention this week. So let's start. Rob Bluey, who do you think has done a good job? Who's a winner of this week?
Sure. I'm going to pick Tennessee's Attorney General, Jonathan Screddy, who was arguing an important transgender case before the Supreme Court. It's clearly one of the sleeper issues of this political season, and I expect that it will have ramifications across the country as many of these states pursue laws like this. Yeah,
Samuel Alito, by the way, was on fire questioning the defendant in the case from the Human Rights Campaign, I think it is.
ACLU, I believe.
ACLU. Yeah. I mean, great. I'm glad you brought that one up. Loser?
Yeah, loser. I'm going to pick Jerry Nadler, the 77-year-old Democrat from New York who had to give up his spot as the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee because the Democrats are just so frustrated with this older generation of leadership.
But he folded like a cheap suit. Like, as soon as Jamie Raskin said, I'm running, he was like, I'm out. This is a committee chairman. And this is the second committee chairman of old, bold Democrats that have folded like cheap suits because they were being challenged. I mean, I don't know a single Republican chairman that would have not had a grip on their committee members. Right? Remember, the subset is the committee members who stand by you in the Democratic Party, and they folded like a cheap suit because Jamie Raskin. And now that Jamie Raskin's out, by the way, you know who's trying to run for the ranking member now slot, I guess, on the House Oversight Committee is
AOC.
AOC. Oh man. This is going to be, I mean, it just doesn't get, you can't write this stuff. So I'm blown away. Jessica, who do you think won the week and lost the week?
Okay, so this that might be also as a surprise to you, Sean, but the big winner for me this week is the Bitcoin and crypto community. So not only did Bitcoin hit $100,000 yesterday, but I think President Trump's very, very wise selection of the SEC nominee being Paul Atkins, who is incredibly crypto friendly. He gets it. He understands the asset market. Couple that with the Treasury nom, and I think we've got really bright days ahead for both the Bitcoin and crypto community.
And that you're a fan of that?
Yeah, I'm a super big fan of it. Not only
do you own any Bitcoin?
Our family does, yes, and
okay.
Also crypto, and also Sentinel Action Fund was the first super PAC this cycle to accept donations in crypto, and Multicoin actually led with $1 million match through Solana over the summer. This is a big story that I just don't think anyone's talking about, but this whole industry of donors from the Winklevoss brothers all the way to Paradigm and Multicoin and so many others that came on board and helped fuel these Senate races because they wanted to retire Sherrod Brown and John Tester. And this universe, these are all brand new voters. And you think of them as like crypto bros, or maybe they're not involved. They're smart, they're savvy. And now they've got this political wind. And I think coupled with Trump's awesome nominees for the SEC and the Treasury, we're just going to see brighter days ahead. So I'm all for it.
Yeah,
I think
instead of crypto bros, I just call them rich. And I hope to call them friends and real close friends and people I want a Christmas gift from. But yeah, I mean, yeah. Chris DeGaulle, who do you think won and lost the week?
I am going to say Pete Hegseth won this week because whether he becomes the Secretary of Defense or not, Pete Hegseth is a profile in boldness, in defending oneself from savage, baseless attacks, in my view, to write an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, to give an interview to Megyn Kelly, to continue to hang in there and fight and not wither and hide, to tackle this head on. That's a winner mentality, and that's the new way forward. Trump has that. I was glad to see it. Loser this week is the New Yorker who's dragging the Hegseth family through all of this, the way they treated his mother and the fact that she had to go do an interview to excuse what she'd written in private, and that they did not print the fact that she said, I lost myself, and I immediately said I was sorry to Pete. What media is doing to families, particularly people like the New Yorker who ran that story, definite losers.
Agreed.
Yeah, when she was on Fox and she explained to people in very simple terms how the New Yorker was like, we're going with this story unless you say otherwise. Like, she was like, I felt like I was being threatened. And I think she did a phenomenal job on Fox and Friends of explaining what she's been going through. And I don't think people normally see that. The other point that I want to make again and I've said this to over and over again, where they go, like with respect to your point about Pete and how he's fought back. It's not normal for a nominee to go on and do interviews. It's not normal for their family to go out and be exposed to this. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If you use Donald Trump and norms in the same sentence ever again, media, then you have not been awake for the last 10 years. Donald Trump and norms and traditions don't go together. They will never go together. And that's the thing that I think so many people, they're like, this is not a norm. This is not a tradition. And I'm like, and you're just waking up now, friends? Because this has been going on. All right. I think the winner right now are people seeking pardons. We just talked about it. I mean, that's not a norm. The idea that all these people are like, oh, a preemptive pardon, I can get one of those so I can commit a crime for 11 years. I hate to say this. You just absolved yourself of a ton of legal fees. So I don't approve of it, but I think you're a winner because, I know what a lawyer costs and it's not cheap. I think the loser are all these Democrats who stood by Biden when he said he wouldn't pardon a kid and talked about what a righteous individual he was, and now have egg on their face and the inability to attack anyone else ever again because they were so sanctimonious about how great Biden was, and they were just patently false.
The president would not pardon or commute the sentences for his son, Hunter. I just want to make sure that that is not going to change over the next 6 months. The president's saying he would not.
It's still a no. It's still a no.
It will always be a no.
It's still a no. It will be a no. It is a no, and I don't have anything else to add. Will he pardon his son? No.
Unfortunately, we have a complicit media that hasn't asked any of them to rectify and reconcile their statements, which, maybe is why they get to make the ones that they do. So I just, it's amazing, but at least I know it, and I can sleep knowing that they're more hypocritical than I ever thought. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you all being here. Great panel tomorrow. As I mentioned, Megyn Kelly is on the show. Next week, Tom Homan, Bill O'Reilly, Seb Gorka. All-star lineup. Anyway, thanks for being with us. We look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow on the Sean Spicer Show. See you.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.